bring in Republican Congressman from Pennsylvania, Bill Shuster. Now, he's the chairman of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. This is going to fall onto his plate about what we do next. And Congressman, thank you for joining us on New Day. Let's start with the obvious. Your speaker says it is stupid to say or ask in any way whether or not this situation could have been avoided by infrastructure. Do you agree that that's a stupid question?
I believe it's shameless that we have some of our colleagues trying to exploit such tragedy like this for funding. We need to figure out the facts first and then move forward. And we have passed in the House a bill to significantly reform the management and operation of Amtrak. I think that's where you start, making sure Amtrak is doing everything in the right way to maximize the dollars they spend. I don't believe they maximize those dollars today.
All right, so there are two different issues. You're making it's not simply how much money you put at this, it's how well you spend it. That goes to accountability, and I think people are going to agree with you on that. But now there's this other issue. There's this other issue, Congressman, which is saying, hey, it's too early to tell whether this has anything to do with anything but the speed of this train. That sounds dangerously ignoring what we've heard from the NTSB. They said, no matter what the engineer was doing, no matter why the train was going that fast, this could have been avoided if positive track control was installed and working. Do you disagree with that?
If positive train control were in place, that's true, but it was the FCC. This administration's FCC has taken years for them to approve putting up poles, putting up the technology. It's a very complicated system. So to say that it wasn't there is the fault of the industry is wrong, or Congress, because we passed that law several years ago, but we're stuck in another agency in this town taking years and years to make us jump through bureaucratic hoops to get technology out there. So once again, the FCC should have some culpability on this.
Well, that's great. There's plenty of blame to go around and point fingers, and we should do it. We should be asking those questions and get the accountability, because there's been a lot of money and a lot of time, and yet we are where we are right now. But I still feel that there's a resistance to what should be very obvious here. If the PTC were in place, this would not have happened no matter what the engineer was doing. Do you accept that as true as it is presented by the NTSB?
I believe if PTC were in place, that is true.
Okay.
And we are working on getting PTC in place. It's a very complicated system. We've got an agency in this town that has been dragging their feet and slowing us down, or it would have probably been in place by now.
Right.
And Amtrak's right on the verge of getting it up and running.
Well, actually, what they're right on the verge of doing, as I understand it, is asking you for more time. That the industry is pushing for more time to extend it, and the word is that you're going to give them more time. Now, how does that play with accountability in this situation? If you keep giving them money and more time to do the job and it doesn't get done, now whose fault is it?
Well, in the Northeast Corridor, Amtrak is prepared to turn the system on in several months. They're just about ready to do it. Across this country, once again, I said, the FCC has stopped us from putting the technology in place, and so they are going to need more time to do it. It just, from the technological standpoint, from the timing standpoint, stopped by a government agency of the Obama administration. That's one of the problems is not out there. And let me tell you something else. If people want to stand up and change the situation, the House has already passed, back in March, a significant reform bill to Amtrak. It's on its way to the Senate. It's in the Senate. If the senators over there that want to talk about Amtrak, what they ought to be talking about is this significant reform bill that will do the things I'm talking about to change the way Amtrak operates.
But just cutting the money isn't going to be, I know that sounds good, you know, we're tightening up, we're closing those budgets, we're going to give these agencies less to work with, but everybody in this industry says the problem is we don't have enough money. And then that goes to, well, how are they spending the money we give them? Well, then whose job is that to be accountable? You're saying the FCC made a mistake. Well, whose job is it to check the FCC and make sure the money's spent right so we don't wind up with what just happened?
Well, the FCC is an agency that's very independent out there. Congress can only do so much. The president has, I believe, the bully pulpit. He has the pressure he can place on his commissioners that he put in place to get them moving forward. So I would lay at the president's feet. And again, there's a reform bill out there that we passed out of our committee, out of the House, on a bipartisan vote, 316 to some, and it's over in the Senate now. The Senate needs to take that up, and let's pass this. Let's do the reforms necessary. Let's get the states involved. Let's make sure that if we're giving billions of dollars to Amtrak, that they're spending it wisely. And right now, I don't believe that's going on.
There's criticism of your bill that one of the elements of it is that you're going to give those operators in the Northeast a larger share of the money than the rest of the country, and that will jeopardize the safety concerns around, as you pointed out, the rest of this country, because they're not going to have enough money because you're giving it all to your friends in the Northeast. Is that fair criticism?
No, not at all, Chris. What we're doing is keeping the profits in the Northeast Corridor. The Northeast Corridor makes about $500 million profit. Those dollars today, those passengers today that pay for those earn those profits are being spread out all over the country. The Northeast Corridor is the most important rail corridor in this country. 18% of our population, 2% of our land mass, provides 20% of our GDP. It's a dense corridor. 200 million people travel this corridor every year, 200 million people. So it's in a significant transportation mode. Those dollars should stay in the Northeast, and then we should look at the other areas and figure out how to make them operate better, help them to maybe raise more revenues. Those are things that I think are very, very fair, and I think most Americans would look at that and say, it's fair. If you make the money in the Northeast Corridor, let's invest in the Northeast Corridor. Let's make it the safest corridor in America.
So you are keeping more money here in the Northeast, but you're saying there's a good reason for it. It's not a bad reason. Thank you for clarifying that. Now, let's just finish on the point that we started with, because it seems like the answer here is at least in part going to be politics. And I don't know how it's helpful for your speaker to stand up and say it's stupid to ask whether or not this situation that we're dealing with down here had anything to do with infrastructure. I think you know the answer to that has to be yes. And don't we have to deal with it clearly if we want to make the situation better?
Chris, look, I agree with the speaker in the sense that it's.
You think it's stupid to say that this situation had to do with infrastructure when you're hearing exactly that from the NTSB?
No, Chris. What I believe is this accident did not have anything to do with money. It had to do with a failure on either the operator's part or the equipment's part. Again, it does not have to do with money at all. It has to do with one of those two things that caused this terrible accident.
You're saying money because that it's not just about giving more money. I understand the political advantage in that. What I'm saying is, do you think this could have been prevented if the infrastructure that we could have in place was in place, or do you think that's a stupid question?
I think the infrastructure was in place. The tracks, from what all I can tell from the NTSB, is that the tracks were fine.
The PTC is not functioning there. It's not in place. It's not working. You know that, Congressman.
It's not functioning because they haven't got the technology in place.
I know. I'm not saying why it's not functioning. I'm saying it's not functioning, and if it were functioning, this would have been avoided. Why won't you accept that?
Chris, that has nothing to do with money. It has
I never said it did. I never said it did. I'm just trying to get past the politics of it.
You kept referring to the speaker's statement.
Yeah, because he said it's a stupid question. And you won't say whether or not it's a stupid question because you want to talk about money, and that's the politics of it, not the practicality of it.
Chris, I don't want to talk about money. I want to talk about reforming Amtrak. We have produced a bill in the House, significant reforms. Let's reform Amtrak, and then let's start talking about money if there needs more. Or are they going to be able to spend it wisely? I'm not making this a money issue. It sounds like you're making it a money issue.
I have never even said the word money, but I understand why it's on your mind because you're down there in D.C. and you guys are fighting over the budget. I get it, and I appreciate you being on the show. We're going to stay on this story because the whole point is to avoid these situations if we can. That's got to be the goal. So thank you very much for being with us.
That's why we need to do a reform, Amtrak reform bill that we've passed in the House and it's sitting in the Senate today.
We're with you. We'll stay on it because this matters, and we're going to try and push through the politics along the way. Thank you very much, Congressman Schuster.